Well, one thing, if you reach further into the past, the first thing you learn is none of these is a rum. Where there is no rum made in the world today. According to the old English definitions, from the 18th century, they had a much different view of sugarcane spirits. There's a landmark distillation book by Ambrose Cooper called The Complete Distiller. I'm quoting from the 1757 edition. I think there are earlier editions. He makes a distinction between molasses spirit, sugar spirit, and rum. Rum differs from what we simply call sugar spirit, he says, as it contains more of the natural flavor or essential oil of the sugarcane, a great deal of raw juice, and even parts of the cane itself being often fermented in the solution of which rum is prepared. Molasses spirit is made from molasses and water. Sugar spirit is made from the skimmings and junk that's left over out of sugar making that isn't molasses, the other stuff. So this is his conception. This is the 18th century conception of rum, is that it's made from, there is molasses in there, but there's also raw cane in there somehow. And nobody makes those blends anymore in the still. Nobody distills like that anymore. And this is clarified. In 1848, a guy by the name of Leonard Gray, W-R-A-Y. How many people in this room recognize that name? Everyone, of course. Leonard Gray of Gray and Nephew Rum. He wrote a huge book called The Practical Sugar Planter. And it's got a big chapter in the end on rum making that's pretty technical. And this is his definition of rum. Rum is the spirit which is made on sugar estates from the molasses and skimmings resulting from the manufacture of sugar. Being made from molasses and skimmings, it is advisable to notice those two products, and together with them, the exhausted wash, commonly named dunder. So when you empty out your pot still, you get, once you've distilled off the alcohol, the stuff that's left is dunder. And the skimmings he's talking about is when you're boiling down, you press the cane in a cane press, and you get all the sugarcane juice. And you start boiling it down to get sugar, and as you're boiling it down, the scum starts floating up to the top, and you skim it off. And in the sugar plantations, they would keep that in its own tank, along with the water they used to wash the machinery that crushed the cane, and some other stuff like that. And they would all go into this tank, and they'd let it clarify. Then they'd get the dunder, and they'd let that settle and clarify. To make Jamaican rum in 1848. This is his recipe, so to speak, as Alexander would note. It's a very loose definition of recipe, but 500 gallons of dunder. This is for 1,000 gallons. 500 gallons of dunder, 200 gallons of water, 200 gallons of skimmings. How's your math? How much do we have left for molasses? 100 gallons. So it's mostly dunder and skimmings. And the rums, I was fortunate enough, my dear friend Salvatore Calabrese, the madman of English bartending, also a very dedicated spirits collector, had a bottle of 1890s Virgin Islands rum that was made on a sugar estate and made in this style, and he broke it open and let me taste some. And it was the most remarkable rum I've ever tasted, because it wasn't like Jamaican rum, and it wasn't like rum agricole. It had bits of both in there, blended harmoniously. It was grassy in the kind of the high mid-range, and then there were these funky Jamaican esters at the top, and then it had that nice molasses fatness in the middle, and and it was just this beautiful, weird rum. So this is the problem with history, is it throws you a challenge like this. Why can't we do this? Who makes sugar anymore on distilling estates? Nobody makes sugar. The sugar is made so industrially, they don't have skimmings anymore. So how do you recreate this? You need old bottles, and you can maybe do it through blending. Alexander could do it through blending if anybody could. But it's really, this is to me the problem with historic projects, is sometimes it's not recoverable. Other times you can come up with a clever workaround, or our labor costs are way higher than labor costs in the Caribbean in the 19th century, and especially in the 18th century, when the labor was from purchased human beings who worked for you until they died for nothing. So it's very different conditions, but I think that's the challenge, is how to evoke the past without being the past.